question: why do the authors of these side stories hate the story they're writing? Look, I get it. You're writing Steins from Suzuha's perspective. Eventually, you're gonna start repeating things, and maybe that would be boring in the hands of a talentless hack, but telling the same story from a different perspective can be just as interesting. It can show us things we've never considered before, introduce new sides of each of the characters. Or you could, like the author of Boukan the Rebellion, title drop, kick it in the balls and add in random shit in a sad, desperate grab for novelty and make your story a convoluted mess written for idiots. Last time we talked about how the author of Mr. Braun's origin story didn't understand the plot or any of the characters, so now let's talk about how the author of Suzuha's thinks you don't either. Oh wow, that's harsh. I mean, it's not that bad, it's just... Okay, listen. So we follow Suzuha trying to find her father, right? But unlike Steins Gate, where she's, you know, never met him, for some reason we have her knowing her father just to have some saccharine nostalgia bait scene, which is just facepalm levels of dumb. Sure, different things could happen on different timelines, but the problem is she apparently completely forgot what he looks like, and so when she actually goes to the offline meet and sees Daru there, she doesn't recognize him. And this might still have been believable if there wasn't a fingerprint lock on her time machine that apparently opens to Daru too, you know, on top of every other clue from the anime. Okay, you can't just either keep the mystery or throw in the nostalgia bait. You can't have it both ways. This is trying to have your cake and fuck it too. Look, I know that everyone reading this should be familiar with the story, but when you just keep adding in more and more details to try and keep it fresh and interesting without changing anything else, suddenly Suzuha must have had severe brain damage to not immediately realize it's Daru. Like, there's a difference between adding in some clues and spitting in your hands and slapping your reader in the face while calling them an offensive slur. Oh, and then they introduce a new plot hole literally just for the sake of making the story more complicated when we learn that Daru has a 2-day window to fix the time machine because that's when the space-time window opens. Did the author literally just forget the actual reasons for the deadline? You know, the completion of the time leap machine, just to try and invent an explanation? What the shit? You're making the story dumber by solving a problem that doesn't exist instead of adding anything actually new. Well, maybe the whole adding new things is the problem because the rest of it is just filled with let's just call it what it is, anime bullshit, as it's just kind of rammed in there as doujin bait because it seems like that's what the author would rather be drawing. Basically, we follow Suzuha fighting with the resistance as a sniper trying to assassinate someone when they're stopped by this random high school girl with an Upa mask who comes and kills all of her friends while screaming about how many points she's getting like she's in a video game, or worse, an isekai, which makes this basically impossible to take seriously. Look, I'm all for camp, but you kind of have to actually be camp. You can't just have James Bond come over and run over her mom with the car and then pretend it's all sad and emotional as she gets in her own time machine to chase Suzuha all the way back to 2010. I mean, I think what they were trying to go for is the other side of CERN. Someone working for CERN who's drank the Kool-Aid because there's nowhere else to go and she's just trying to make the best life she can for herself and the people she cares about. But I feel like if I ask the author, they wouldn't even be able to articulate this because her character has just about every random personality trait under the sun just rammed into her every hole, plus some new ones you didn't know existed. Dark, crazy, quirky, cutesy, depressed, violent. How many other adjectives can we slam in there? It's like they spun the big wheel of anime tropes and then said fuck it and spray painted a big yes over the entire thing before lighting it on fire. See, there's this pathetically cliched bit about Upa Shoujo trying to protect this little orphan girl that's obviously supposed to humanize her, and maybe this would at least kind of work, but when she's actually just crazy, the entire thing comes out as dull and emotionless. The thing about moral ambiguity is that it requires actual effort to write, but for some reason, so many anime writers seem to think that all you need to do is make a character quirky and crazy, and then empathy somehow gets shit out the rear end like that one fairy tale about the freaky mutant goose. If any of them are watching this, you guys really need to understand something. Making a character randomly crazy makes them less sympathetic, not more sympathetic. We empathize with characters with struggles we can relate to. Just crazy is not a relatable emotional state. This is like asking us to sympathize with Bowser as you punt him over the lava bridge to his death just because he took bath salts. At best, this is only sympathetic for people actively tripping, and at worst, it's just really fucking dumb. Oh, and I haven't even gotten to the dumbest part about this. Boukan no Rebellion tries to retcon Suzuha's suicide by telling her that her memory loss wasn't actually from the time machine failing, it was from this girl chasing her back to 1975 and drop-kicking her off an 8-story building. I don't know if I can even begin to describe how fucking dumb that is. Really, this entire tragedy stemming from Suzuha finally tasting friendship and learning what it's like to have a normal life before having to give it up to the hands of fate was actually the result of some random e-girl that, you know what, I'm not even gonna give this the dignity of explaining what's wrong with this. It knows what it did. Now, it's not like there's nothing to like about this manga. There's this bit where Suzuha sits in the park eating weeds and bugs as a survival technique, which is kind of dumb, but adds life and character to her and her journey. And then as her fire goes out, she glances at the divergence meter before lying back to stare at the moonlit sky, wondering where in the world her father is. It's nice, it's personal, and it's completely fucking undermined by all the random shit they added. Because instead of just getting to have a unique perspective on a great story, we have to ram all of this irrelevant bullshit in there and make none of it possible to take even a little bit seriously. There probably was a point to this manga somewhere, some deeper meaning other than Suzuha backstory, and maybe there would be if it had been written by someone with actual talent. Maybe there would have been. As it stands, I literally couldn't even remember how it ends while writing this because the ending is worse than bad. It's forgettable. This is probably by far the worst of all the Steins Gate side stories. Well, I say this, but then there's the unfinished Kurisu one that, well, you'll see. And we already dunked all over the Mr. Braun one. I guess that just means subscribe for the eventual tier list and tune in next time when we talk about the real reason Kurisu built CERN's time machine. As always, thank you so much for your time, friends, and I will see you in the next video.